What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream for Wednesday night. We will be recapping our podcast as last week with special guest Nick Verone. As you can see, we got Jacob back, and we'll be going over our final thoughts in preparation for the Farmers Insurance Open. Jacob, how's it going, man? You missed the podcast, but what were your thoughts on how everything went down?
Things are going good, man. Glad to be back in it. I thought the podcast was pretty awesome. Nick, super sharp guy. I thought that was an awesome pickup to fill in, and honestly, I hope I didn't lose my spot because that was some quality information he was putting out, and just some really good theory stuff, GPP, cash, just a lot of really good content to take in on the pod.
Yeah, it was an hour and 40 minutes, a lot longer than our normal one, almost, 40% longer. 60% longer, I guess. It was a lot longer. But yeah, it was a lot of good information. We kind of got down some rabbit holes as far as some strategy, some research ideas. I learned quite a bit too. It's always interesting talking to these really good players and seeing how they kind of attack each slate. Specifically this slate, I had enough time on Monday to, get into some type of research. And then when I, talked with him on the podcast, he was able to divulge a little bit of what he was looking at. So it's kind of cool to see, all right, well, we were on the same page here, or never really thought to look at it, so much like this. So pretty good turnout already. Let's go ahead and hop into the agenda, and then we'll kind of get kicking for the podcast recap.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Good job, Orange Man. Got Orange Man spamming symbols. I don't know what symbols he's trying to spam. We're going to go over our podcast review, and, we kind of touched on that already, but we'll hit on the players I talked about, and maybe you have some you can drop in there since you did not participate this week. We'll talk some FGB line movement, essentially guys that we are higher on or lower on than earlier on in the week, going into Thursday a.m. tomorrow. Jacob's got the weather, so we'll touch on that. And, of course, Q&A will kind of sprinkle out throughout the show, and then giveaways will be spontaneous through the show again. So got a special one. I don't think – it depends on the turnout. I'm not sure I'm going to give it away today, but I'll definitely reveal it at the end. Maybe if we get enough people, we can pop this guy up here and give it out. I see Mindy Mark's in there. He won one. Nick's in the chat. What's up, Nick? Let's go ahead and talk about some plays. I mean, you listen to the podcast. I think me and Nick were on a lot of the similar guys. He kind of mentioned the high-end range. It's hard to really stay away from all those guys. I think he tends to play a lot of tournaments, so he'll definitely be sprinkling those in. I've been trying to decide on where I want to go in the high end, and haven't really changed my tune as far as the high-end guys. But, Justin Rose looks really good. And Rory, I've kind of come up a little bit. So what's your thoughts on the high-end range? And then maybe your general thought, just because you missed out on the podcast. Let's just kind of hear your quick little take on what the field looks like for you.
So I'm a sucker for fading the top pretty much more often than not. When I listened to you guys, it sounded like both of y'all were pretty high on Justin Rose, and I initially started building my first lineup off of Justin Rose alone. Didn't really come through with some bad lineups, but then I saw my boy Jason Day down there at the bottom of the 10K range get no love, and I had to drop down to him and saw really that it was a little bit easier. I was a little bit more comfortable with my lower guys in the low 7Ks, mid 7Ks that I was looking at, and really looking more into his stats. I mean, obviously he's got some crazy course history here, crazy in that he can win it but miscut the 2 years before and then win it again. It's just we know his quality of play, but needless to say, in that range, the 10K, really no interest in Tiger. A little bit in Rory. I was looking at him a little bit, but I'll probably end up just playing Day out of this group for my GPP lineup, and then for my single cash lineup, I'm actually not going to play anybody in this range. I'm going to start off with 2 9K guys.
All right. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit in chat. Kind of starting the 9K. And as Nick said, it's a sexy range. I mean, these guys all look good. I have some issues with Ricky, which I touched on the podcast, so I won't go down there. I did have a few thoughts like in the low 8K that, I don't think we really touched on. Like we talked about Answer at 8,200, but then like later on in the week, start getting more and more questions about Hideki, and like I think I completely overlooked Hideki on Monday night. I don't know if you had any thoughts on him. It's at 8K, it seems way too cheap. I mean, he's cheaper than Answer, cheaper than Griot. But I don't know. It's probably not going to make a cash lineup, but I think in GBPs it's hard to pass on an 8K Hideki.
Yeah, and that he was one of the guys that I wrote up in the article this week. I have 2 hesitations with him outside of his ball striking and, in general, how he is as a player. The first is I think his ownership is going to be a little bit up there for my liking in that range. When I can move off of him and go to somebody like Answer, or Norin, even, which I really like, and Reed even in that 8K range, and still I think get the same quality of player with a little bit less ownership. That's what I might trend towards doing. The other thing was his bogey avoidance and really short game overall. I wasn't too excited about, and bogey avoidance especially is one of the things that I am weighing pretty heavily this week.
You have to. Yeah. Nick pumped it pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely important on this type of golf course, no doubt.
He ranks 53rd in bogey avoidance in this field. 62nd fairways gained. 55th off the tee. So those aren't inspiring numbers. They're not terrible, but he does hit greens in regulation at a pretty decent clip. So, part of me playing devil's advocate was saying, well, if he hits the green, we don't have to worry about his around the green game. But, he's got to find the fairway first to do that more often than not. So I have actually found myself coming off of him a little bit and trying to find other guys in this range. I know we had a conversation earlier today about Answer and Griot, and down in that high 7K range, I do like M a lot, and then Billy Horschel is one of my favorites down in that range as well.
Okay. So going down a little bit further, and then we can kind of get into some fan share stuff, because I found some really interesting ownership, maybe leverage spots, if you will, at the high end. I'm really curious to see if this plays out, because it doesn't seem right to me, but I'm curious your take, and then getting the audience's take as well. But we did have a question in the chat. Any thoughts on Ryan Moore? So I'll kick it over to you in just a second, but I looked at him early in the week, and it was one of those, he's obviously really cheap, so it's hard to argue against a Ryan Moore at 7,300 on a normal basis, but we haven't seen him play in so long, and he hasn't played this golf course in like 5 years, 5 or 6 years probably. So I wasn't planning to play Ryan Moore. He might be one of those that you feel pretty good about. H3 Buddha donating $40, dude. We're not gonna give you any more clubs, but thank you. No, Mike has been on a heater. He won 14K in the NFL Showdown on Sunday. He won a MMA qualifier, tennis qualifier.
Tennis qualifier. Who plays tennis qualifiers?
No, he does, and he's gonna win more money in the qualifier or in the actual final. And then he showed me this crazy story about his showdown. He entered real late in the NFL slate. And he's like, I'm just going to, early on didn't go well. He entered this showdown slate. He won a qualifier ticket by 0.1 points. And then 3 days later, he turned it into 30K. And then he wins the golf club 2 weeks ago. And he's just been on a heater since the golf club.
That's insane.
So any thoughts on Ryan Moore?
To him. That's
great. For sure.
Yes. I
Yeah,
do
go
have a
ahead
take on
and
Ryan Moore real quick. I actually pulled his name up when I was prepping right before we went live, and I was just curious about him because I felt like 7,300 was a little cheap for him. I think that built into that, though, is the fact that we haven't seen him since early November. He didn't really have a great fall swing either. He started off well with a T2 at Safeway, but then his Asia swing results, weren't that great. Lost a lot of strokes off the tee in both of those events, and then he kind of picked it back up at the Shriners, gained some strokes off the tee, gained nearly 3.5 strokes approach. But like you said, he hasn't played this event. His last time he played it was 2012, and it was a miscut. That sort of combined with really no form, no solid form to speak of, is just got me off Ryan Moore.
And he missed it 2 years prior to that in 2010 and 2009. Granted, that was, I mean, you can't go off someone's results from 9 years ago, but that is something. I just don't want to spend too much time on Ryan Moore, but it's one of those in this type of field when it's so loaded that you can't, at least in my opinion, you can't afford to waste too much time really digging into a guy you haven't seen play in a while. There's other guys with a little bit more data, and it makes your time spent researching a little more valuable to spend on those guys. If you want to play Ryan Moore, I just don't know what you would go off of to play him unless you're looking for it. That's my personal opinion. So sometimes in these big fields that are loaded, I try to, manage my time as smart as possible. So, H3 Buddha, well, might as well answer his question. He's the head donator. He is one of one. So Griot in cash. I am on Griot in cash. So I don't know if you want to add to that any, but Griot's solid here. His last 2 finishes at this golf course, if I can pull it up, it was like 2 top 20s if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 12th and then a 33rd 2 years ago. Coming off good form. He's got really good tee to green game. I think Griot is a pretty good play at 8,100 in cash.
Yeah, I think that's a good play as well. I think he is good for cash and GPPs too.
Yeah,
he is a little bit projected to be a little bit higher owned. I actually think him and Hideki are both kind of around the same right now at 16-ish%, which is not terrible. I think a lot of people have talked about that this ownership is going to be really spread out this week just because of how strong the field is. But he is certainly a good play. He knows the course. He ranks well in bogey avoidance, hits fairways, hits greens, and scores well in some par fives also. So I don't mind the call at all. I did see a little bit further up in chat, Drew, old Giant Beer was asking about your boy Sungjae M.
I heard about it. So I think his deal was, and I didn't have enough time to dig into it. So what I did look into was his web.com stuff, and I assume that's what Giant Beer looked at. And those golf courses, they used to play like 2 golf courses that were like over 7,400 yards. I couldn't find more than 2 tournaments over 7,400 yards for last year, so I assume that's what he's talking about. But like he finished second in one of them, and then most of the ones he finished well in were around 7,000, 7,100, 7,200. So yeah. I still am going to play Sungjae. I think he's just too talented. He's not that short. And yeah, we were looking at some narratives earlier, not narratives, but statistics on these golf courses for correlations. And, driving distance wasn't as correlated as you would think. Now, granted, you still want to get guys that are bombing, and I think that's a smart decision if you're between 2 guys. But it was really interesting to see that, going back like CT Pan a couple years ago, like you don't have to be that long. And I think Sungjae's long enough, and his iron game is so solid the last 2 starts, even since the fall. So until Sungjae's like mid-9s without a win or something like that, I'll keep playing him. I did have one, so I don't know if that helps Giant Beer any. I'm sure he's done far deeper research on the distance thing. Maybe it was like specific holes or something, but he got a question for you in the chat, but let me get to this real quick. We'll hit that answer, and then we'll get to some fan share ownerships real quick, because I do want to talk about that early on, because I think there's some really interesting things. So one I wanted to point out, which I don't know if Chris Hollander is in the chat, but he was asking me earlier about Carlos Ortiz, and I don't forget who I think it was Chris Ferreter. I think he's in the chat. Carlos played this tournament back-to-back in 2015 and 2016. He finished 11th in 2015 and then 49th in 2016. He was rookie coming off the web.com tour. His last two finishes don't look great, but they're two made cuts. Tee to green game looks decent. So he's one of the few in the 6K that I've kind of added to my list. 6,500. I'll be sprinkling some more tees into my GPPs, even though that did rhyme. That was kind of dumb. I didn't mean to do that. But
it's okay. It's all right. It's great. Great job.
So Giant Beer says his long irons. What's up, Chris? His long irons are what he struggles with, which I didn't look into. I can dig into that later on when we get off the podcast or off the live stream. So Fratelli, we got a question about Fratelli, and then I'll hit on list real quick, but talk about Fratelli, hit on list, and then I'll get to the fan share stuff.
Sounds good. I do like Fratelli a lot this week. Also, I feel like it's kind of a broken record when it comes to him. But I think now people are starting to take a little notice because I've heard some others throughout the community talk about Fratelli. I think it was Rob Bolton, the guy that writes a lot of the fantasy stuff for PGA Tour.com. PGA Tour.com was on a podcast, and one of the guys that he was especially excited about was Fratelli, and especially on this course, said that the course at Desert Classic wasn't really one that fit him and his style of play. He's more of a grinder, grew up over there in South Africa, so he's familiar with the Kikuyu, and he was excited about him as a prospect, his talent level and everything. All these things that, of course, I've been talking about for weeks.
Yeah.
But no, I do like Fratelli a lot. I think he's a great option down there in the mid 7K range, and I think that he's got a lot of upside. I think he shot like 7 or 8 under on Sunday at the Desert Classic, so we know he can go low. In these events where we're grinding out pars and birdies, I think those are tournaments where he can thrive as well. So I do like him a lot.
Yeah, he snuck in there. He was on my cash lineup and started off so slow, and then got through the cut and did fine. So, question on Luke List, and then let's get to this fan share stuff. I think it'd be, at least in my eyes, irresponsible for me to leave Luke List out of my GPP lineups. Like in cash, he would not come close. I guess I'm somewhat biased. Like when you're such a bad putter, and he's not just notoriously bad. Like his last couple of events, he's been gaining strokes. Strokes putting, he gained, 2.8 at the Safeway and finished 4th. He gained 3.2 at the RSM, finished 4th, and then gained 2.6 last week at the Desert Classic and missed the cut. Like, if he's putting better with his ball striking, I feel like he's a pretty good bet as far as GBPs at 7,700. So, granted, if I was building like 3 lineups, I can maybe make an argument for one, but the 7K is loaded enough. He probably wouldn't make a lineup until I get to like 5+. So I'm going to build about 40, and he'll be, sprinkled on maybe 4 or 5.
Fair enough.
So let's hop over to fan share. Let's see here. There's a couple things I wanted to point out. I think this is interesting. So right now you see the number 1 tag guy, Tiger Woods. Ironically, I don't know how many people use this start-sit thing, to be honest. People use it in NFL, but like in golf, you can't really sit someone, so I don't know why you would do that. But yeah, so let's hop over here to projected ownership. Let me flip this around. Alrighty. So Tony Finau, 26.2. Is that surprising to you?
No, I thought it was going to be a little lower, like 22, which I didn't really care about for cash, but 26, I think I'm still okay with it for cash. That would be a full fade for me in GPPs though.
All right, so a couple just kind of hitting on him at 26.2, and then the next highest is Woodland at 22. Going down, a couple of ones that stuck out to me, Hideki at 20. I honestly thought that was a little high just from kind of how me and Nick talked about. I didn't really hear a ton of other chatter. I mean, I kind of get it, but I just didn't hear about it. John Rahm at 18%, Luke List at 18%, Sung Jae at 17%. So somewhat standard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go ahead and sort this by the old DK pricing. I think you'll like this.
Are you getting saucy on me over there?
So dropping down, the guy that I hate, well, I don't hate the roster. If I rostered him more, I'd probably be a little bit better situation financially. Xander Schauffele, 8.5%, man. What are you doing with Xander this week? Because that's something that's come up quite a bit, and I don't feel like playing him at 9,400. But every time I do this, he wins. Course history, if I'm not mistaken, is not. Yeah, it's not good. 3 missed cuts in a row. What are you doing with Xander this week?
I am not biting on Xander this week. I think at that price, let the public flock to that name. That's fine with me. But like you said, no, not great course history here. 3 missed cuts in a row, and 1 or 2 solid tournaments does not a good pick make.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that you're better off jumping up into the 10s or pounding the low 9Ks. Now, certainly it can be a leverage play for ownership, but he is so hard to peg, I think, for everybody. Everybody says, oh, Xander's the one guy that I can't get right. Well, nobody gets him right. So if you choose him, then you're just, it's like 50-50 which Xander's going to show up. So
yeah,
I think there are just so many more good options in this 9K range that that's a hard pass for me.
Yep. So a couple other ones that stood out to me, and then maybe throw in like a look at the salary differentials. That's always pretty interesting. But your boy Dylan Fratelli, sub 3%. Kyle Stanley, under 9%. Then
that's surprising.
Ryan Palmer, I wasn't planning to play a bunch, but with his course history, I thought he would be a bit higher, but apparently everyone we're playing against is too sharp. But he's at 2.5%. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah.
What can you tell me what Billy Horschel is at?
Yes, I can. Billy Horschel, 4.3%. That one I kind of get. I expected him to be under 5 or around 5.
I like it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, outside of that, man, it seems, I feel like it's definitely going to be spread out. I'm not really too concerned with ownership. A couple of these in here, like Cameron Smith, I'm super interested in, 5% owned right now for projected ownership. I feel like he has the upside and is going to get overlooked, especially with Spieth right there, which he's not getting any ownership either. So I think Nick hit it perfectly on Monday, because the way the ownership breaks out in the 8K, I think they're just getting skipped. I think literally people start over 10K, they pick up a guy in the 9Ks, maybe they start 2 in the 9Ks, and then the 8K just gets passed. That's certainly how it's projecting, and we'll kind of see how that turns out. But yeah, any thoughts? Giant Beer's playing Palmer. Perfect, man. You're the 2.5%. Rose at 9%. I thought was
that's crazy.
Interesting. Yeah.
If he's at 9%, I will try and find a way to bump up to him. That's insane.
Yeah, might as well. People can see this on the screen, but let's just hit the high end real fast. But John Rahm at 18%. Tiger Woods is at 19.6%, and then you got McIlroy and Rose in the middle at 9 and 10%. Like,
what's Day at?
Day is 13.5. He's a lot higher than I thought, but he doesn't have a flu, or he didn't have the flu in the Pro-Am today. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just feel like looking through this, like, I don't know. I think Tony Finau is a big decision for people, because that really limits where you go above or below him. Like, if you take Finau, I don't think you can roster anyone above him. And if you take Finau, maybe you piece one more 9K guy in there, but then again, you're jumping the whole 8K. So It's going to be very interesting where ownership shakes out across all of the different contests because I think, in the higher stakes, people be very condensed. It'll be interesting to see kind of where the sharp people go. And then the low dollars, it's just going to be a mess, man. Finau, Tiger, Tiger 20% just seems crazy.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I could see the public swaying that percentage, but some of those other ones it just sound really odd to me, especially a 9% Justin Rose. 26% Finau. I mean, those are. I'm curious to see the ownerships tomorrow and compare them because I think this one's tough to gauge, because it's such a quality field. Everybody kind of agrees it's going to be spread out, but I wasn't imagining those numbers for sure. That's really, really interesting. It might make me rethink some of my my choices. Not all the way through, but certainly worth considering.
Yeah, if you're building one lineup or you're throwing a single entry or something and you were really sold on Finau, I hate telling someone in a single entry to focus on ownership, but if it turns out to be 25% in a single entry contest, then that's pretty good leverage, especially with many guys just above him or just below him. So let's take a peek real quick at some of these salary differentials. We looked at this last week, and some of these are just absurd. Actually, one more. The old Joaquin Niemann I just passed. He let's see if we find him. He was low.
I'm sure he's probably
9%. 9.1%, man. What was he last week? 30%, 26%?
31% in the dog leg, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, a nice drop there. If Pat's watching, Siwoo Kim at 0.9, great. So, yeah, so some price drops and some price jumps. We'll hit the price drops real fast, but let's see here. I won't look at Gary Woodland. He's down from 10.8 to 9. Obviously, the field is stacked, so that's a big reason why. Some other notable jumps. I think Cameron Champ, 9,900 at the Sony, down to 85. We touched on it a little bit on the podcast, but I'm not overly excited to play him. And then your boy Hideki, 8,000. His previous price, 9,300 at the Sony. So you're definitely getting discounts. I guess probably the most popular one is Spieth at 8,900 as far as the price drop. But yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I think that price drop is sort of fueling Hideki's high ownership. It certainly can't be because, people, his recent form is not truthful if we're looking at it because he finished 18th at the Hero, which was last. And, he had that huge gap, and then he made the cut at the Sony, but then was mediocre. He really doesn't have any outstanding performances. 30th at the HSBC, which that was a field of 70, so middle of the pack, not as good as it sounds.
Yeah.
I just think they see that name and they see how cheap he is, and it's like lock button. So for that's that coupled with a lot of the things that I was looking at as far as bogey avoidance and things like that. Sure, he might be a world-class ball striker, which he is, but he's scary. I think that Mike was on here saying he scares me, but for the reason of being off of him when he does well. But that's not a concern for me. I've got other concerns.
All right, well, let's move into the weather real quick. I don't know if you saw anything. I kind of leave it up to you to grab this and tell the people what they should do with it. But from what I saw early in the week, it looked pretty good. But let's see what you found.
Yeah, so I'm happy to report that I have found nothing. It is going to be a beautiful week in La Jolla, California. And, I mean, outside of looks like some 10-mile-an-hour winds Friday afternoon late, that might be the highest it gets. I mean, we're seeing a lot of single-digit sustained winds with gusts even in single digits. So we're talking light breezes here. Now, I did see a couple videos of guys playing that classic. What par 3 is that? That's on the coast. That is the most well-known one.
At Torrey Pines?
I don't know what hole that is. Yeah.
I don't know which hole that is.
Okay. Well, it's the classic downhill par 3 with the coast to the right of it. But everybody was showing videos of it. Tony Finau and Daniel Berger and whatnot. And there was a pretty decent wind. I think you're going to see that wind on those coastal holes regardless. But I think the rest of it is not necessarily tree line, but everything's pretty tight in there together. And, it's not like we're calling for crazy winds at any point during this. So wind is not really anything that I'm considering. Certainly there are players that might handle these coastal holes better, but I think if we start digging into that, we're just splitting hairs. I really wouldn't take any weather report into your consideration just because of how nice these next 4 days are going to be in California.
All right, let me we'll get to some giveaways here in just a minute. Let me throw up the betting card and kind of talk over it for a second, because I thought it was interesting the wave of, not even a wave, but the split of guys going off the north and south got a little bit of chatter, and Giant Beer was talking about it earlier. And I mean, the guys are so split. Like even last week with the 3-course rotation, there was more, like the studs all went off on La Quinta. So like it wasn't just a La Quinta start. You had the best players going off La Quinta. So it's like a double whammy. This week, they have the 2 courses. The North will play slightly easier. It should historically. But it's so, mix and matched. I'm not paying any attention. He mentioned maybe stacking, one course or another in GPPs, and like I can get behind that. I mean, if you find the right pieces and you stack it, I mean, whether it's due to the stack on that golf course or not, I mean, the guys are going to play the South course 3 rounds versus 1 on the North. So I'm not paying that much attention. But what's up, Billy? Ball and Reese joining chat a little bit late, but it's all right. So yeah, let's go ahead and transition to, we'll do 2 quick giveaways, and then we'll hop back and do our final thoughts on the pricing, and then kind of finish it off with any questions and a couple more giveaways, and then
sounds good.
All right, you guys know how this works. Let me go ahead and pull this thing up. If Buddha's still in the chat, did you hit the hybrid yet, man? Have you tried it? I'm curious how the ping went. All right, let me refresh this thing. Let me spin it. Let's see what we got first off. FGB hat, easy enough. Alrighty, let's do. Gonna make an easy one. Tori in the chat.
Tori, I like that.
Johnny Appleseed. Any thoughts on Kevin Tway? I was looking at Kevin Tway on Monday, and then Nick kind of mentioned as far as the driving accuracy. So I've tapered off a little bit from Kevin. I don't know if I'll even have him in a lot of my GPPs, but originally, man, I thought he would be okay. And just some of the guys around him, I think I'm raising my ownerships on them versus Kevin. So, you have any thoughts on Kevin Tway?
I don't have any thoughts on Kevin Tway. It's actually really interesting. Orange Man in here wants to do a donut bet, and I will throw this out there to everybody.
Hang on one second. Augusta won the hat. Good job, Augusta.
Oh, nice.
All right. We'll do one more, and then we'll hop back over the pricing and finish up there. Continue with your thought on Kevin Tway. I'll spin this thing, though.
All right, so I don't really have any interest in Kevin Tway.
Yeah.
But, and this might be something interesting.
We're redoing it. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, you're killing me.
Let's get a real one.
Another hat?
No, a T-shirt.
Okay.
Just don't talk for a second. I keep screwing it up and talking over you. So let's just do.
We'll finish this giveaway.
Tiger is it. Congrats, Augusta, man. Throw Tiger in the chat. This is for the FGB t-shirt. You see what's coming up for the giveaway? You want to go ahead and reveal part of this? Might as well. I got it right here.
I think. Are you gonna do that right now, or is it gonna be after we do our final thoughts?
No, man. Yeah. I'll hold it up. Tiger Woods, y'all. All right, you ready? Let's see who wins this guy.
What we got?
Parker. P Prayer.
P Prayer. Way to go, man.
Good job, man. All right, finish your thought on Kevin Tway. I've cut you off enough, and then we'll finish with a couple questions, and we'll jump back and do our final giveaways, and we'll get these people out of here, build some lineups.
All right.
Euro's locking tonight. I don't know if anyone's playing Euro, but it locks at 10:10, so don't let that linger.
Yeah, 20 minutes on that. Okay, so Kevin Tway. I really don't have a ton of interest in him. I do have more interest in some guys above and below him. Tway, it's just, I mean, I know he had the win early in the fall season to start it off well, and I read some about him. You know, of course, he's a bomber, and this course might suit him, but let me just take a peek at his course history real quick. A 35th last year. So he's made the cut 4 years in a row. He kind of averages, 35th to 40th place, which is not terrible. Certainly, we've got guys that can't even make the cut. But Kevin Tway hasn't really popped on my model. I will say, though, that there is a running contest in the FGB Slack community. So if you're interested in this additional contest, you can get in over there. But it was sort of came into existence from my Fratelli call last week. And Orange Man, who has a place near him called Fratelli's Donuts, coincidentally enough. So he's told me that if Fratelli finished 10th or better, that he would send me some of those lovely Fratelli donuts. Well, that didn't happen. Got close. But he said, who's your donut pick for this week? So we're going to call this the donut pick of the week, and it is anybody in the 7K range. Everybody in Slack can choose an individual, and whoever has the highest placing golfer will get a $10 Starbucks gift card.
Nice.
So yeah. So just hit me up. I think that Orange Man has made it clear that Tway is his pick. Mine is going to be Harold Varner III. So
okay,
I really like him in the low 7K range. It was between him and Fratelli, of course, for me. But I thought I'd go with the North Carolina native. I do like Harold Varner III a lot this week.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of chatter about Harold Varner III. A quick question. We got one for Jonathan Vegas. Any love for Vegas this week? He's made several cuts in a row. He's 6,900. I'm not going to go there. He last week, you look at strokes gain data, and me and Nick kind of talked about in the podcast. You look at strokes gain data from the last couple events, it all looks similarly. Looks like he's gaining strokes, and then you start digging into some traditional stuff. So like last week, he lost 8 greens in regulation to the field. Lost fairways gained. He was down. Like, I'm not digging that coming to this golf course. Like, if his green in regulation number was up a little bit, I'd have a little more interest. But as soon as I see that for a $6,900 guy, he's probably not going to be that high owned. So it's not like he's just going to burn me if he's 12% or something like that. I'd probably dig in a little further. So yeah, I'm not in on Jonathan Vegas this week.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in him either.
How about Keith Mitchell?
Keith Mitchell is really interesting. Pat Mayo loves him some Keith Mitchell, some Killer Keith.
Well, everyone does, dude. He's talented. I mean, I'll give him that.
He is talented. He is. And he is actually one of the first people that I looked at in this lower 7K range. But I tell you, instead of Mitchell, which relative to this range might be a little bit more popular, a guy like same price as Anders Albertson a lot. He really popped in my model this week, 6th overall. So I don't mind Keith Mitchell, but if I were to go in this range with someone, it would probably be Anders instead.
Okay, I like Anders. We had a question just above him that I missed. Keegan Bradley left. Course history last few years is solid. You got a Keegan Bradley take? I mean,
you never go full Keegan. That's my take.
He's expensive, man. How you gonna pay for him over Answer or somebody?
Yeah, no. I think there are just too many options in this price range. I mean, honestly, and I know that you would probably do this also, but I would take Snedeker before I take Keegan, just because.
It's for a different reason, though. I think.
Yeah.
Like Keegan's fine, but he goes full Keegan, so it's not like you can really feel decent about it. Because like he's had a couple missed cuts here, and then like top fives back to back. So obviously he struggles from time to time. His last 2 events he played, Tournament of Champions, he finished basically last, 27th. He lost 7 strokes putting, and then 29th at the Sony, a little bit better, but lost 3.5 strokes putting again. So some of these guys, my tiebreaker is putting like starting the year. So that's why when he mentioned, someone mentioned Kevin Tway earlier. What's funny enough is since the Sony Open, I think it was Sony Open, maybe it was Tournament of Champions. He's I think 1st or 2nd in 3-putt avoidance in this field. Granted, it's probably 100 guys have only played this year out of all these. Like you don't have Tiger and Max really played the Tournament of Champions, but nothing else. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
Shout out to Nick in the chat. So he mentions there's the 15 Club article. I think that's a company out of the UK that helps with like the Ryder Cup and does a lot of stats for players on tour. I'm sure they help PGA Tour guys too, but he meant to mention earlier, read the strokes gained data, demystifying strokes gained data article by the 15 Club. So wanted to make a note of that because Nick's obviously really sharp. You heard him on the podcast, so I would highly recommend reading the 15th Club article on that. I'm not sure I've read that, to be honest. So, but the way it says demystifying, I kind of like it. I'm down for this narrative. Let's go.
I think that Data Golf has a strokes gained article out recently where they talk about the impact of it in the game and how much you should weigh it. And I want to say I read that recently. They get very technical with their strokes gained talk, but yeah, I think there's something out there on that as well.
Yeah, they've been hammering course history a lot too, and won't get into that very much. We'll just let's finish it off with some questions. I'll throw it on this. Everyone can kind of see what's going on. Granted, I'd probably be a little bit above where you guys see it on the screen, but if there's anything, I'll kick this one to you, Joel Damon. You digging Joel Damon on this type of golf course?
No dice on Damon this week. I honestly, I glossed over his name and didn't really even consider him. Which I just think that there are some better options in this 6K range. If you have to go in the 6K range, I think that there are so many options and so many different ways to build a lineup this week that you don't even have to force yourself down here. But if you do, then that's fine. There are some choices. Damon wouldn't be one of mine. He missed the cut.
You're only building a few lineups too.
That's true.
I mean, and just make that evident. I like me some Damon this week. I don't love him, but
missed cut last year doesn't scare you?
Nope. He's I wouldn't say he found something, but since like the early part of the summer last year, he's been really consistent. You could argue the weaker fields. I definitely will give you that because I think he popped during some weaker fields and it looked like he was a lot better than what he was as far as like placement. But the last couple of events, man, have been really solid. So his key stats that I would look for on this type of golf course would be like fairways and greens, and then driving distance kind of mixed. and
Yeah.
he's up there on all. He's not doing anything poorly, so I'm okay with Damon at 6,900.
Fair enough. I do have some guys in that range. I don't know if
Let's hit a couple questions. I'll let you give your
yeah, fair enough.
thoughts. Let's see here. Hoffman has been playing awful for over a year. I don't know if that was a question, but I wasn't interested in playing Mr. Charlie Hoffman at all. CH3 ownership. I will let me go look that up, and then Orangeman asked for our one and done picks. And then top score league, I think that's P-Dub asked for Leishman. So do you have any thoughts on Leishman? Well, we can get to our one and done picks here in just a minute. But let me look up the CH3 ownership for Hoosier.
Yeah, no, I can touch on Leishman while you're looking at that. I do like Leishman a lot. I think that he is a natural pivot off of the Finau chalk. And I wouldn't say that he's going to go overlooked, but there are a lot of names in this 9K range, and I wouldn't be surprised if he came, 15, 16%, which is very reasonable.
He's at 20. He's at 20 right now.
Okay.
And Charles Howell's at 13 for that person. But I was talking, man, I thought Leishman would be somewhat overlooked at 9,700 with Finau right there. So that's why I have a tough time with some of these ownerships that we're seeing. And Fancher does a great job, man. They really do. But like in some of these, the way they will calculate, it's so dependent on lineup construction. Like Tony Finau at 26% and Leishman at 20.7%. Like it seems like that can't correlate, but because like it depends on where people go in the low 8s or the 7s. So
yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that his form coming in enough even would warrant that me being okay with that 20%. I'm not sure of his course history here, but there are times Leishman.
You're not sure of his course history here?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. You might want to put him in a lineup.
Oh, don't tell me that.
I mean, it's somewhat hit or miss, but so in the last
I see it now.
Yeah, in the last 8 years, he's got 4 top 10s. He's got 2 missed cuts and a 20th, a 27th, and a 52nd. So,
okay,
I think, and him coming off of basically 3 top 4 finishes to start the year, round out the end of the year, then start the year. I thought Leishman would be somewhat overlooked. It looks like maybe Xander will be with 3 missed cuts, which makes sense. But, man, Leishman, I think course history-wise, 8th place finish last year, back-to-back top 4s.
Yeah, you're doing good at convincing me. I might have to.
You might want to make a lineup with Leishman, man. So
yeah, maybe I'll just swap over to him from Finau. Who knows?
It's Finau, not Finau.
Finau, Damon.
All right. No, there's pronunciation is correct in certain ways. Let's see here. Any Stanley or Holmes love? JB Holmes I like, but someone asked earlier about Cash, and we haven't seen him play. I can't do that to myself. And GBPs, though, he's going to be up there. I love some JB Holmes and GBPs, and let's see what his ownership's going to be. I think we
13%.
Yep, 13.8. So it's about right. Kyle Stanley, same way, man. I think Kyle Stanley is as solid as it comes in the 7K range. He's cash playable for me.
The fact that he's only projected at 9% blows my mind because statistically he rates out so well.
He does, and I think people have talked about him. So I don't know. It just seems really bizarre on a couple of these. So we'll see. Like, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. Let's see any other questions. Jay Blaze in the chat. What's up, man? All right, so one and done. Last week I took Rahm and didn't win, but it was okay. The week before I took Howell, and it turned out pretty good as far as guys taking Justin Thomas. So this week, I was talking to Chris about this earlier, and I forget who the heck I decided to take. I think it might be a Jason Day week as far as a one and done. I don't want to go down too far. So like from a DK pricing perspective, it's going to be, 9K and above. I've seen a lot of people talk about Charles Howell. I think that's a decent play. I think the time to use him was, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing more golf than he has in the last several years. He played the Tournament of Champions, Sony, Desert. Like, this is his fourth week. I wouldn't use him here, but that's just me. So I would like to use one of the studs. It can't be Tiger. I wouldn't use Rory. He hasn't played. I guess Rose would be interesting, but I can't do that yet. I want to save him for like the Masters or U.S. Open or something.
Yeah.
Who would you take in that?
I am never do one and done, so this pick might be terrible, but I would probably go with Cantlay just because he is there's a narrative. Is he from California or is familiar? He went to UCLA, didn't he?
Yeah, he's from that area. Well, he's from where the Desert Classic just was. Between San Diego and Los Angeles, so yeah.
So I think these West Coast swing is probably where he's going to really try and amp it up. So this week or next week's AT&T at Pebble Beach?
No, next week's the Waste Management, and then I think it's
Phoenix. Okay.
Yeah, it's Phoenix next week.
So, yeah, anything on this West Coast here, I would trend more towards California, but no, I think Cantlay would probably be my one and done, which take it for a grain of salt because I don't ever do one and dones. And
I like that. It's probably a better play than, now that you mention that, I think Cantlay's probably a better play than Day just because we saw Cantlay play last week. He has some type of form coming in. Jason Day is still, he's probably going to finish first or, withdraw with vertigo after 9 holes.
I hope not.
So, Billy says, still feeling strong on M. Yes, I am. I'll try to scroll up if I missed anybody. But, Giant Beard tried to poke some holes in Sung J M, saying his long iron game is not the best. I did not have a chance to look deeper into his long irons, but, man, I love some Sung J M. So, he's in my cash lineup. Like I said, until he gets to, like, the mid-9s in this type of field without a win or something, I'm going to keep playing Sung J M. He's just, 20 out of 25 made cuts last year on the web.com. Granted, this is a different tour, but his stats check out. It's not just, he's not a fluke, so I'm in on Sung J.
I
going down the list, still like Harris English. So we talked about him a little on the podcast. Did you have any thoughts on Harris English? I think I've come down a bit on him. I think let's go check his ownership real fast.
But he's got to be sub 10, right?
I don't know, man. I keep hearing people, see, like, that doesn't make sense to me. He's 3.8%, but everyone I talked to, I heard it on chats, saw it on Twitter. Harris English course history looks good. He's coming off some good form. Like, it shows his tags are up 25, whatever that means, since last week, I guess. So, I don't know. I feel like he should be more popular, but Harris English I am interested in, but not like, I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah.
I just don't get some of these ownerships, man. I can't get over this. Maybe they'll end up being within like 1% of actuals. That'd be very, very interesting. Have you ever seen nudity and or strangest thing on the golf course during a round? I don't think I've seen nudity on a golf course.
I did see a fox run up on the green and take my ball off the green.
Okay. Did that happen recently?
No, it was probably about 10 years ago. I was playing a mountain course up here in North Carolina, and legit, I couldn't believe it. I saw my ball land, and I saw something run up that was bigger than a squirrel. I assume it was a fox. And then when I drove to get there, the ball was gone, but my divot was still there.
Interesting. I got a story for you, real quick. This should only take about a minute. So
let me hear it.
So back in the old mini tour days, so I played. Have you heard this story?
No, I knew this was going to be a mini tour story, so I'm excited.
Well, because like any other amateur story is just normal, like just idiots or they get out and they go drunk. It's not a big deal. But so this guy, so I play with this dude, and he shows up on the tee sheet, and that I'm paired with him, and I recognize the name. So I'm somewhat excited. You know, this was early on when I turned pro, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna play with a veteran. Like, I see this guy, he finishes top 3 every week, great. And the dude was just an asshole. I mean, he was awful. So we go through. I think he maybe shoots like even par, 1 under on the front 9. He's pissed off the whole day. We get to the back 9, and he's, you know, even par on the back, so he's 1 under for the day. He gets to a hole, and he misses it short left in this like this hollow. So it's like, you know, 6 feet below the height of the green. So he chunks a chip. It rolls back to him. So he snaps his wedge and throws it at his golf cart. He pulls out his other wedge. He hits that, chunks it. He snaps that, sticks the shaft in the ground. He pulls out his putter. He putts it up on the green. So it's on the green at this point. We're sitting on the green. We're like, what the heck's happening? He breaks his putter, throws that at the golf cart. So then he has to walk to his golf cart, pick out a 3-wood to come back to the green to finish out. So we're just like, dude, this guy's losing it. I think he makes like an 8 or a 9. He goes to the next hole. I think he makes par. It's par 5 with no wedges, with, you know, no putter. He goes to the 17th hole. We played all day. The 17th hole, he hits it just left in the bunker. He gets in his cart and drives it and just leaves. And I was partly pissed. Like, wow, you made me deal with this crap all day, and then now you're going to quit. And then the other guy I was playing with were just like, just shocked. I've never seen that from a professional golfer. Granted, it was a mini tour, but still, like, he had a decent reputation, so I was surprised. I know that took a little bit longer than a minute, but that was by far the strangest story I've ever had on a golf course. It was not Patrick Reed. I probably would have had some more words to him. This guy was just a psychopath. I don't know what was going on. Hopefully he's not in the chat. So let's finish this off with a few questions, and we'll get to a couple last giveaways, and then we'll get you guys out of here. We're running good on time, right at almost 10 o'clock, so perfect. I don't know if Orange Man's asking about Patrick Reed or just asking if it was Patrick Reed, but I am playing Patrick Reed this week, ironically enough. And then Jay Blaze, you asked for the ownership numbers. We're getting that from fansharesports.com. So we have a partnership with Fanshare Sports. You can use promo code FANTASYGOLFBAG, all one word, all lowercase, and you will get 20% off any package that they have. And that includes golf and NFL. And I think they're working on some new sports in the future. But yeah, NFL is a pretty good package in that it's ending now. Golf is, I think they're going to put a little more focus on. So a lot of good things on there. Yeah, Steel. Are you on Steel? In on Steel?
Yeah, I don't mind Steel at all.
He should be sneaky, right?
I would think so. I mean, he's really long off the tee, and
yeah,
he was kind of up and down last year, but yeah, I've got some interest in him.
All right, Nick putting us on the spot. Alex Prue. Honestly, didn't look much into him, man. He was not one of the ones that popped out to me down in the mid 6s. So let me take a peek there. And then B. Higgins with Brandon Grace. That was my guy. That was one of the few in the 8K that I thought would be underowned. And yeah.
Instead, everyone is underowned.
No, he's 7,600. Who am I thinking about? Oh, probably Reed. Brandon Grace, 7,600. A good pivot off Stanley. 3.6%. So
pivot off of a 9% guy though.
Just go with it. This was earlier in the day, man. I don't know where these ownerships are coming from. Kyle Stanley is not going to be 9%. I don't think so. Any thoughts on Alex Prue? No
thoughts on him.
He finished 5th in 2015. He gained 4.5 strokes putting. I don't know. I feel like I would probably play Carlos Ortiz down there, but oh man, Prue. I mean, tee to green looks decent. He's losing a ton of strokes putting. So I don't know if Nick's dropping little nuggets for us to come bite on or what. But tee to green looks okay for like a mid 6K guy. He looks decent. He's just losing so many strokes. Putting. I'm curious what his putting splits are on POA. That's probably why. So he averages a half a stroke better on POA than any other surface. Good one. We'll have to look at that. Yep. Hey, Riser. We mentioned Neiman a little bit earlier. He's dropped a ton as far as ownership goes. And then I still probably won't play him. I think there was something that came out. He won the World Juniors back in 2010, 2012, something like that, and it was at this golf course. So he says he likes it, but I don't know. I still am not fully sold on Joaquin Neiman, and he's at 9%, which is a huge drop from last week, but it's still a pretty significant amount for a $7,300 guy. So you have any thoughts on Joaquin? You going back to the well on Joaquin after he burned you last week?
Probably not. That's tough for me because I like him a lot, but it was tough to take that gut punch last week at 31%.
Yeah.
You want to? You want to throw up the last few giveaways and we can knock these out.
Yeah, I was trying to follow Nick's chat because he was talking about Peru. I just looked at his last finish. He finished 5th, but he finished 5th back in 2010. That bookends a miscut in a 73rd place, but I mean, it's actually it's interesting. That's probably why his strokes gained putting on POA is so good. But yeah, let's go ahead and knock out these last few. CT Pan, I think he's fine. He's not one of my high picks. As far as my lineups go, he's not going to be one of my strongest ones. Just did this last time. Let's reload the giveaway wheel. No, we might be out of giveaways.
Are you on Champ, Drew?
No. I mentioned him on the podcast. And I looked into it a little bit further with Nick. I think he's fine in GPPs, but there is a lot of possible concerns. There we go. All right, last 2 giveaways. We'll run through these real quick. So let me quickly mention. This is what I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about, man. I don't know if you can see this, Jacob. We're gonna be giving away. I know Chris. If Chris is in the chat still, he's pretty excited. A little TaylorMade Spider putter. TaylorMade Spider Tour. It's got the red sole with the Tour Chrome top and a Super Stroke grip. So we'll be giving away this next Wednesday night for the Phoenix, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, since that's a whole big ordeal down there. So we'll be giving away this putter next Wednesday. So be sure to tune in. We'll throw something out on Twitter. Awesome. We got a deal with Super Strokes. If you guys play golf at all, you know what Super Stroke. They make some really good grips. Jordan Spieth made them famous, blah, blah, blah. But we do have a Super Stroke package, so we might do a little retweet contest on Twitter. So be sure to follow us on Twitter and keep an eye out for that. And then next Wednesday, we'll be giving away this putter. So, Mindy Mark, you're not going to win another putter, man, or another club. So yeah, let's do the spin the wheel real quick, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, Twitch chat will be the putter giveaway. FGB t-shirt. I'm happy to give away another FGB t-shirt. Let's do this. Let's do putter. Type in putter in the chat for the FGB t-shirt. Yeah, just in closing, we'll do these last 2 giveaways. Obviously, the putter next week. But yeah, be sure to, as far as partnerships go, Fanshare Sports, if you guys want to check out those ownerships, you can find it at fansharesports.com. Promo code FANTASYGOLFBAG will get you 20% off any subscription. Let's go ahead and roll it. We'll get into this last one. Dude, you can't win. Guys, Jacob messed it up. We're going to do one more.
I saw you put your name in, so I thought, you know what?
Well, I can't win. I know I can't win because I'm doing the whole thing.
That's hilarious.
All right. Here we go. Type in crap because Jacob screwed it up. So yeah, type in crap. We'll do this giveaway real quick, and yeah, hopefully you guys have a good week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll do our sign off here in a second, but yeah, this was a good show, and thanks for Nick for the podcast, man. Everything was awesome. I seen you know, they blew up your Twitter with all the thanks, because that was definitely a deep dive into your thoughts. Rough 79, congrats, man. You won the FGB t-shirt. Nice, man. Go ahead and send me I don't recognize your screen name. Some of these guys I've seen before, but send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll get your address and I'll ship that out to you. All right, last one. Perfect. New today, and he wins. FGB hat. We'll do that, and we'll actually duel it with something. So we'll do the hat, and we'll do one more spin the wheel, and whatever this is, we'll go into a dual pack, whatever. Golf polo. So you get a hat and a polo.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
So this keyword will be farmer.
Farmer.
Type in farmer for the polo and the hat. Very nice. Any closing words from you, Jago, as we find this last winner?
No, not really. I kind of got a late start to my research this week, but excited about watching some golf tomorrow and hopefully winning all the money. That would be great.
Yes, sir. All right, here we go. Johnny Utah 79. I recognize that name, but I don't think he's won before. Boom. There you go, man. Yeah, DM me on Twitter, and I will get your address and your shirt size and send this thing out. But, all right, man. No closing remarks from you. All I got to say is good luck this week, guys, at the Farmers Insurance Open. Enjoy watching Tiger come back and play. Not sure how much ownership I'll have on Tiger, but I'll definitely be excited to see how he does. It's hard to not root against, or it's hard to root against Tiger. So good luck this week, guys. Check us out, fantasygolfbag.com. All of our content and tools. We've been crushing the showdown, so we have our live strokes gain tool up on there. So if you want to join fantasygolfbag.com, you can hit all the showdowns after each day of play and kind of get a leverage, especially the first 2 days when the pairings don't reshuffle. It gets very difficult on the weekend, but definitely hammer Thursday and Friday. So without further ado, guys, good luck the rest of this weekend. Hopefully you hit some big GPP wins, and we'll see you here next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a good one.